Imagine you're sitting in a government building in Washington, D.C. It's 1962. The Cold War is at its peak. The world is teetering on the edge of nuclear annihilation. And in a secure conference room inside the Pentagon, the most powerful military headquarters on Earth, a group of the highest-ranking military officials in the United States are quietly signing their names to a document that proposes blowing up American ships, hijacking American planes, staging terrorist attacks in American cities, and killing American citizens, not to protect the country, not to win a war that had already started, but to start one that hadn't. This was not a foreign enemy's plan. This was the United States government's plan against its own people. And it came within one man's signature of becoming reality. The world in 1962. To understand what happened, you have to understand the world America was living in. It was a world of shadows and paranoia. The Soviet Union had nuclear weapons. China had gone communist. And just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, closer to Miami than Atlanta, is a revolution had handed the island of Cuba to a man named Fidel Castro. In April 1961, the United States had already tried and failed to take Castro down. The CIA trained Cuban exiles to invade the island at a place called the Bay of Pigs. It was a catastrophic failure. Over 1,000 men were captured. America was humiliated on the world stage. President John F. Kennedy took the blame publicly, even though the plan had been inherited from the previous administration. The military was furious. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, the 5 generals and admirals who served as the highest military advisors to the president, believed Castro had to go. They believed Cuba was a Soviet missile platform sitting at America's doorstep. And they were convinced that the only way to get rid of Castro was through a full military invasion. But there was a problem. The American public didn't want another war. Kennedy didn't want another war. And without a justification, without an event that would turn public opinion, an invasion was politically impossible. So the Joint Chiefs did something that, even today, is almost impossible to believe. They came up with a plan to create that justification themselves. The plan was put together by the Department of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It was codenamed Operation Northwoods, and in March of 1962, it was formally proposed to the Kennedy administration. The document was 33 pages long. It was stamped top secret. And what it contained was something that should have been unthinkable, a detailed, point-by-point proposal for the United States military to carry out fake terrorist attacks and blame them on Cuba to give America a pretext for war. Let that sink in. This wasn't a fringe conspiracy theory. This wasn't some rogue agent going off script. This was a formal, signed proposal from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Lyman Lemnitzer, delivered directly to the Secretary of Defense. And the attacks they proposed were not small. They were designed to produce American casualties, real ones, or convincing enough fakes that nobody would question them. The document listed specific scenarios. American military aircraft would be painted to look like commercial passenger planes. Those planes would disappear during flights near Cuba, making it look like Castro's forces had shot them down. The real planes would be secretly swapped with drones. A fabricated list of passengers would be published. Grieving families would mourn people who had never been on board. Another proposal: sink a U.S. Navy ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba. The document literally used the phrase, "We could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and blame Cuba." And they calculated how to make the casualties look real, even if the actual number was minimized through careful planning. They proposed staging a fake attack on the U.S. base at Guantanamo. Military personnel, dressed as Cuban soldiers, would fire mortars at the base. American soldiers, their own colleagues, would be put in the line of fire. Some might be wounded. Some might die. They proposed terrorizing the city of Miami. Bombs detonated in carefully chosen locations. People hurt, possibly killed. Riots provoked in the streets. The attacks would be orchestrated by American operatives, but the evidence left behind would point directly to Castro. They proposed assassinating Cuban refugees on American soil and making it look like Castro ordered the hit, to silence dissidents against his regime. And then there was the plan that still feels the most surreal of all. They proposed staging a terrorist attack in Washington, D.C. itself, the United States capital, and tying it to Cuba. Every piece of this plan was engineered to do one thing: manufacture outrage. Create the kind of moment that would make the American public demand war without ever knowing that the moment was manufactured by the very government asking for their support. The document landed on the desk of Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara in early 1962. McNamara brought it to President Kennedy. Kennedy's response was swift and unambiguous. He rejected it. He was reportedly furious. Within days of reading Operation Northwoods, he removed General Lemnitzer as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and transferred him to NATO, effectively exiling him from the center of American military power. The document was classified, buried, stamped secret, and locked away. For the next 35 years, it did not officially exist. If Kennedy had said yes, if he had signed his name at the bottom of that document, American cities would have burned. American people would have died. And the United States would have gone to war with Cuba, with the full support of a public that had been deliberately lied to by its own military.